We recently learned that Jeffrey Epstein had such close ties to Democratic delegate Stacey Plaskett, he texted her advice on how to conduct a congressional hearing while she was in the hearing. Cenk, we've got more, but what are your 2 cents here?
We've now learned through a lot of different reporting, including Dropsite News' reporting, that Jeffrey Epstein was actually one of the most powerful men on earth. It was not a small little operation he was running. He was connected all the way up to Vladimir Putin. And in this story, you're going to see him texting with a Democratic Congresswoman in the middle of a hearing, and then her, like a puppet, saying the exact question Epstein wanted asked. It is amazing. Go ahead, Joe.
Now, Plaskett has been a member of Congress since 2015. She is a delegate for the US Virgin Islands, meaning that she doesn't get a vote. But regardless, she was able to participate in congressional hearings. Here is footage of a hearing from 2019 in which Michael Cohen was being questioned about his relationship with Donald Trump. Watch how Plaskett texts Epstein during the meeting.
Attorney-client privilege, yes, I will turn it over.
You, as my friend Mr. Meadows pointed out, misled this committee even today in a written submission that contradicted your testimony. You have suggested you are going to review that. Did you review? Are you going to review it in our next break to correct the record, yes or no?
Yes.
Question, you helped out the president's campaign or were involved in the campaign as a representative, as a spokesman, even in your words today. It was your idea for the campaign dating back to 2011. Is that accurate, yes or no?
Yes.
Mr. Weisenberg and other individuals, Ms. Rona. Who are those individuals? Are they with the Trump organization?
They are.
Are there other people that we should be meeting with?
Her office is directly next to his, and she's involved in a lot.
As for why Epstein was connected to Plaskett, all you have to do is follow the money. Epstein had donated generously to Democratic politicians from the US Virgin Islands for years. In exchange, he got $300 million in tax incentives and was able to fly girls to his islands without customs batting an eye. Epstein owned 2 islands in the Virgin Islands, Great St. James and Little St. James. There are around 50 islands total in the Virgin Islands. Now, Epstein donated to Plaskett specifically in 2014, 2016, and 2018. Epstein also encouraged his associates to send Plaskett donations. And in 2018, he agreed to donate $30,000 to the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee at Plaskett's request. For what it's worth, the DCCC did not accept Plaskett or Epstein's donation. Now, here's a statement provided by Plaskett's office addressing her messages with Epstein. During the hearing, Congresswoman Plaskett received texts from staff, constituents, and the public at large offering advice, support, and in some cases, partisan vitriol, including from Epstein. As a former prosecutor, she welcomes information that helps her get at the truth and took on the GOP that was trying to bury the truth. The Congresswoman has previously made clear her long record combating sexual assault and human trafficking, her disgust over Epstein's deviant behavior, and her support for his victims. But Plaskett isn't the only powerful Democrat with connections to Epstein. Last week, we covered Epstein's close ties with former Treasury Secretary Larry Summers. You can check out that video on our YouTube channel. On Friday, the American Prospect reported that Summers is playing a major role in crafting what's being referred to as Project 2029. That's a policy playbook from the Center for American Progress, or CAP. The project describes CAP as the highest profile think tank on the center left. Like its conservative counterpart, Project 2025, Project 2029 is allegedly being designed as a list of policy priorities should Democrats win the presidency in 2029. Summers is a, quote, distinguished senior fellow, CAP. Summers had taken a leadership role in advising the project's economic policy arm, 2 of the Prospect's sources said. They also said that Summers was the final sign-off on a CAP housing policy paper set to be released next week. In response to the Prospect's reporting, CAP not only denied that Summers was the last sign-off on the paper, but also denied the existence of Project 2029 entirely. But this is bigger than just CAP. Summers is associated with a huge list of corporations and think tanks, including, but not limited to, Harvard University as a professor, OpenAI as a board member, Bloomberg as a columnist, the New York Times as an opinion writer, and the Yale Budget Lab as an advisory board member. Now, Jank, to bring it back to the start, what do you make of Epstein texting this delegate Plaskett during the hearing?
Yeah, so this is why I hate partisan crap. Who cares if he's doing it with a Democrat or Republican? So I'm on the left, I'm a Democrat, but what the hell was that? That was crazy. So he's apparently got these Congress people on speed dial, and he's watching. I read the whole story, of course, and he's watching the entire hearings and he's texting people different directions. Did anybody know that Epstein was running our government? I mean, that was amazing. Did you see? She doesn't know who Rona is, so she misspells it in the text. She thinks it might be an acronym for something, and then she says, Ms. Rona. Rona's her first name. It's Rona Graff, the assistant for Trump. She literally has no idea what she's asking. She's only asking that question because Epstein directed her to ask that question. And interesting that Epstein at that point is directing people on how to damage Trump. So that doesn't serve any of my interest for me to tell you that, but that's what's happening in that hearing, right? You gotta be fair and you gotta call out what's actually happening. But what's interesting in all the emails is Epstein goes back and forth, back and forth. Should we hurt Trump or should we help Trump? Should we hurt or help? And depending on what Trump is saying. And he categorizes Trump as dangerous. My guess as to why he thinks Trump is dangerous is because usually when someone is bought or blackmailed, they stay bought or blackmailed, right? Whereas Trump is so volatile, they're not sure how to handle him, right? Should we hurt him or should we use him as an asset? I'm saying it openly, guys. They're all over Ehud Barak's emails from Job Site News is how Epstein is conspiring with Ehud Barak, former prime minister of Israel, with literal Israeli spies. He's getting, and by the way, there's Democrats all over the emails. There's Dana Bash's ex-husband, Jeremy Bash, who works in the Democratic administration. He's organizing tours for the former prime minister of Israel, but only because Epstein asked him to. What? Why is Epstein being feted by both the very top of the Democratic Party and the Republican Party? So now to Larry Summers. Look, guys, there's two giant problems with Larry Summers here. Number one, the emails are devastating. He's asking Epstein for how he can, quote unquote, get horizontal with a woman that he's mentoring at work. Jesus Christ, man. And then he talks about using his position of power and privilege. It's like out of a Me Too manual, right? And he's like, but she can't get that access to that stuff that I have and the things that she needs for her professional career unless she gives me the sex. Like, oh my God, right? And he's talking to Epstein about this, and Epstein's like, atta boy, I don't let her get away with anything without giving you sex. And both for Plaskett and for Larry Summers was a Treasury Secretary under under Bill Clinton, and then he was the top economic advisor to Obama. And they're both talking about how to conspire to make sure that they use sex for their own advantage and etc. Okay, but then the second problem for Larry Summers being at Center for American Progress is Larry Summers is the most neoliberal, pro-corporate guy in the entire Democratic Party. Part of the reason he didn't become Treasury Secretary on top for Obama is because progressives were like, no, Timothy Geithner was bad enough. And we already had Summers destroy our economy by doing all of these disgustingly pro-corporate positions. So he's writing up Project 2029? No, thank you. Then I don't want to back anyone backed by Center for American Progress, because that means that they're already working on how to ruin the Democratic Party by making it a neoliberal dumpster for whichever corporations are funding them. I think that's actually even more offensive. No to Larry Summers under any and all circumstances, especially this one.
Yeah, I of course, It's ludicrous that while a delegate, still a member of Congress, is texting with Epstein in 2019, like way after everybody knew who he was. I mean, even at that point, Trump didn't even want to associate with him. And you're texting him during the hearing. This idea that she just gets messages from the general public and it just happens to be him. Give me a break. Like it's just, you're turning a blind eye to it. That's a non-starter of a statement from her office. And then I'm with you, Jang, on the Larry Summers stuff. Like, yes, of course, we know his involvement with Epstein is bad. And then there's a separate and of lesser significance here issue with his involvement in shaping housing policy. Are you kidding me? Larry Summers has fought, even as a liberal, has fought for financial deregulation for decades. And we saw where that got us in 2008 and 2009 when the housing market collapsed. And to be specific, even when he was in the government, even when he was within the Clinton administration during a liberal government, Brooksley Born, who ran the Commodities Future Trading Commission back then, was trying to regulate derivatives. Now, these are risky financial instruments. And Larry Summers brought the banks, the heads of the banks, into a room and called her on speakerphone, said, I'm with all the CEOs of the banks. We don't want you to regulate these derivatives. And they really pressured her and talked her out of it. And that was just one of a handful of things that he did, using his influence in the government and these different administrations to give handout after handout after handout to Wall Street and enable their greed, which led to a massive crash and recession in 2008 and 2009 that we are still feeling the ripple effects from. The inequality in this country widened then, and it continues to get worse to this day. That you would even entertain the thought of having Larry Summers shape policy for a potential Democratic administration only discourages people from participating and ultimately reinforces this idea that both sides are bad on this issue, of the issue of inequality and corporate control of our government. And just, again, it discourages people from feeling enthusiastic. It only reinforces the idea that they're in it for the status quo, that any Democratic nominee is just going to protect the status quo and won't look out for us. So how could I get excited by this prospect?
Yeah, it's a disaster. Two quick things on the dates. Remember what Jordan's explaining. So this happened in 2019. Not only was Epstein arrested in 2008 already, but in 2018, Miami Herald broke a series of stories that made it absolutely indisputable that Epstein was a prolific pedophile. And both Plaskett and Summers, past 2018, in the year 2019, are like, hey, Epstein, how you doing? Let me get some advice. Okay, so apparently they didn't mind at all. As long as the money keeps coming in, and apparently the sex advice keeps coming in, and whatever other projects they're working on together keep continuing, they didn't care at all. Now, to the point that Jordan's making, so not only does Larry Summers help destroy the housing market in the first place by deregulating the banks, the deregulating derivatives was the #1 cause of the crash. Number 2 wasn't even close. That was the principal reason. And Larry Summers did that. Then the corrupt Democrats bring Larry Summers back in the Obama administration. And what does he do? He lets all the bankers go. He says, oh yeah, the bankers, it's not their fault. He gives them a bailout and pays their bonuses. Pays their bonuses for destroying our economy and costing us 12 million jobs. Now the Democrats want to bring him back as the architect of the next Democratic administration? Oh, hell to the no. No way. So what that shows you is the Democratic establishment hasn't learned a single thing. They're just as corrupt and dirty as they have ever been. So do not trust anyone in the Democratic establishment. They do not have your best interests in mind. The minute they get elected, they're gonna do a switcheroo, and they're gonna bring Larry Summers and all the neoliberals that have destroyed our economy and helped corporations ravage our government. They're gonna bring them right back because they're paid by those guys. No way. Democratic primaries in 2028 is the most important election you will ever have in your lifetime. It's not even close. They cried wolf about all the other elections. In 2028, you're either gonna get an establishment type that's gonna have Larry Summers as his top economic advisor, or you're gonna pick a populist for the first time, someone like Bernie Sanders, and you're actually gonna do Democratic policies. That's gonna be the choice, and it'll determine which direction this entire country goes. Every time you ring the bell below, an angel gets his wings. Totally not true, but it does keep you updated on our live shows.